Hello, welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Okay, so it's time to do the Birdhouse Gourds. Now this is what the seeds look like. I don't know if you can see those, but I've got these imported from Hong Kong. Now it was actually cheaper to get them imported all the way from Hong Kong than it was to actually buy these in the UK. So these basically cost me £1 over eBay. Just let you have a look at the seeds. So you know they've sent me through about 25, I think, or 30. So, but that's what the seeds look like. And they're a funny shape, as I explained in a previous episode. The shape of them is quite unusual, but basically what I always do is plant them sort of sideways, like that, in a pot, and then you know sort of grow them away. So what you want to do is hold the seed sort of like that in your finger, and then push it into the compost around, I'd say about sort of 1.5 inches below the surface of the compost. Now I'm putting these in some little round pots, and the reason for that will become apparent in a moment. As I say, you know, they do look a little bit like sort of sunflower seeds, but anyway, so I'm just pushing them in, as I say, about sort of 1.5 inches down on the side. That's what I've found in the past works quite well. And then I'm just pushing the compost down into the pot by using the base of another pot like that, so we get even sort of pressure. Now the reason for doing that is to ensure that there's no air gaps around the seed, so that so the seed isn't sort of sitting in an air pocket, if you like. So you don't need to push them down too firmly, but just as long as they're sort of firm enough. Now what I'll be doing now, just sort of get those bits off, is these need around 20 degrees centigrade to germinate. So obviously in the UK, you know, it's still, you know, we're getting that sort of temperature in the day in the greenhouse, but it's still getting a little bit cold at night. So I've just given them a little bit of water, just give them a little bit more actually, just to make sure that they've got enough. Now what I'm going to be doing now is the reason why I've used round pots is I'm going to be putting on top of that a pot bottle. There's like a small cloche, but what you want to do is take off the top of the bottle so that they don't get too hot. And then you'll find that the bottle just sits quite nicely over the top of the the little pot. Now I seem to have one bottle missing for some reason. I think one's blown over. What I'm going to do is put one bottle on each one of those now. Put those in the greenhouse and let them grow away. Now as soon as these have germinated and sort of got to 1 inch or so high, you know, with the seed leaves, what I'll do is I'll take off these bottles, and you know, as the weather sort of increases in temperature, they'll be okay to sort of growing in the greenhouse. Obviously, if there is a frost, I'll need to put these bottles or something over the top of them again, just to protect them in the cold weather. As soon as they've germinated, I'm only actually going to be growing 2 of these, but what I've done is I've put 4 in, just to make sure I've got enough growing. And obviously, if there are any extras, I can always give them away to one of my neighbours. But as soon as these are grown away, these are going to be grown in either side of the gate outside the greenhouse here, where the you know, you normally see at the start, at the end of the videos. And I'll be growing these along the fence. Now these grow quite high. You need a fence or some kind of frame to grow them up, and they're like a vine, so they'll grow away, you know, kind of like beans and that. So I'll need to support these with a bit of wire mesh to grow up, and then don't let them grow along the ground, because the fruits, or the Birdhouse Gourds, will get flat on one side where they're sitting on the ground. So what you want to do is make sure that these are up in the air, so they don't sort of deform the fruits. Okay, so they'll be in the greenhouse there, just growing away. So I'll they'll be okay to leave there for the next few weeks. As I say, as soon as the leaves come up, I'll be taking the pots off, and they'll eventually go here. So there'll be one sort of growing here, and I'll allow that to grow up and across the fence there, and I'll have another one here growing up and then growing across the fence there. Okay, so this year I'm actually going to grow 4 types of tomato. Now, this first one is like a rainbow variety. This is called Rainbow Blend F1 Hybrid. This is from Thompson & Morgan. The second one is basically the one that I always grow. This is Moneymaker, and these are basically, with Moneymaker you can never go wrong really. So if you've never grown tomatoes before and you want a good heavy cropping tomato which is a really good flavour that you can use in the kitchen, this is most certainly a good one to go for. And to be honest with you, you have to try really hard not to grow these well, to be honest with you. You know, I mean, they grow literally like weeds. This is a variety I've grown before in the past. I actually grew it last year for the first time in about 5 years, but this is Alicante, another old variety. These ones are from King Seeds, and these are another really good variety to grow. This is very similar to Moneymaker. Flavours slightly different, but nevertheless, this is a good one to grow. And I'm also growing Gardener's Delight. Now these are from Wilko's. These are the Get Growing range from Wilko. And these are another good variety. The 5th variety, I haven't got the seed here at the moment, but that was an experimental variety that you can grow outside. So I'll be putting them in as soon as I can put my hand on the seeds, basically. But anyway, as you can see, you know, there's these 2 here that are sort of standard sized tomatoes. So they're sort of, I don't know, just a bit bigger than a golf ball sort of sized tomato. Now I find that these are good for the kitchen, you know, for making sauces and stuff like that. These other 2 varieties, the Gardener's Delight and the rainbow ones, these are more like you know, sort of smaller cherry tomatoes, and they're good for sort of salads and stuff like that. So I'm also going to grow more of the you know, this type, which are basically where the so Moneymaker. This is these seeds are from Country Value. I've not used Country Value before. This is the first year I've used them, but you can get the same. Pretty much most companies, seed companies, will sell Moneymaker. It is quite a popular variety to grow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sow these in trays. Now, as you can see, I've got a full-size tray here, and I don't know if you've noticed, but the compost is reasonably low. I've still got best part of an inch, sort of 3/4 of an inch to the top. Now, on top of these seeds, you only put a very sort of slight sprinkling of compost. The reason I'm doing this is to protect them against any frost that we might have. Obviously, today's the 1st of April, so you know, to protect them against any kind of frost, I grow these in the greenhouse. It's unheated, but what I will be doing is, as soon as they're all in there, I'll be putting on a pane of glass over the top, which will protect the seeds inside and stop them from sort of getting too cool in the evening. Now, during the day, you know, we are enjoying sort of temperatures up into the 20s in the greenhouse at the moment, with the window slightly open, and at night it is falling. We haven't had a frost yet this week, but we could potentially still have frosts up until the end of May. So, you know, to get these germinated and get them away, what I want to do is plant them with some glass over the top, and I want to leave some space between the top of the earth and the glass, so that when the little plants come out, little seedlings come out, they don't touch the glass, because they can get scorched if you're not careful. So what I'm going to do is sow them in here under a very small amount of compost, and then what I'll be doing, as soon as they've grown to around sort of a couple of inches high, I'll be pricking them out and planting them up into the square pots, sort of 4 or 5 inch square pots, and then I'll be growing them in there till they're around sort of 9 inches to a foot tall, to sort of 12 inches tall, 30 centimeters tall, and then I'll be planting them out into the greenhouse, you know, where they will sort of grow on. So all I'm going to do is, and it's worth you taking your time to do this, I'm going to put one seed, so I've just dropped about 5, one seed every sort of couple of inches. Don't go too close to the edge. Now the reason you do this is when you prick them out, what you don't want to do is disturb the roots too much. You know, when you're pricking the plants out. So what I like to do is just take a little bit of time. You'll have noticed when I do other seeds, I literally just throw them in the tray. You know, I'm not too particular about them, but with tomatoes, you don't want to damage the roots really when you're pricking them out, so you want them to be reasonably well spaced out. Now I'm wanting around 20 to 25 to 30 plants of these to plant out, because I do grow quite a lot of tomato plants. So, you know, if I put, there's obviously 5 in a row here, so I've already put you know, I've already put sort of 25 seeds there, so as you can see it doesn't take a lot of room. I've only really used half the tray, but I'm going to continue to go on. What I'll be doing is picking the best plants out. So I'm only putting one seed in each of the positions. If some fail, that's not going to be a problem. So I'm basically putting in twice as many seeds as really I need, and then what I'll be doing is picking the best plants to put out into the greenhouse, and then any others that are, you know, any good plants that are left over, I'll be sharing them amongst my either family or neighbours on the allotment to get them. You know, it's always nice to give plants away, I think. So I've just got to put. So I've dropped a few seeds here. I'm just going to bob them in. Let's get some more out of here. So as soon as you put these in, you know, these plants will be, you know, as soon as they start to grow, they'll be in here for around 4 to 6 weeks, really, depending on how they grow, and that's largely dependent on the weather. What you don't want to do is get two seeds together, because what you want to avoid, I find with tomatoes, is two plants growing close together, because they're very difficult to separate. And if you do manage to separate them, you'll most certainly damage the roots in the process. So I've spent a bit of time, as you can see, spreading them out, and the seeds are around 1.5 inches, 2 inches apart. I don't know if you're picking that up on the camera, but that's kind of what you need to do. I've got 5 in a row, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've got 50 seeds in there. So, you know, even if I only get 50% germination, that'll be more than okay for me. Now I'm just sprinkling some compost on the top. You know, you only just need to cover the seeds. You don't need to put a lot over the top. And it's always worthwhile when you're doing tomatoes, is use a fine compost. You haven't necessarily got to use a seed compost, but use a fine compost. This is the clover compost that I use, and this is really good for small seeds like this. So as soon as you've got a reasonable amount of covering, what I would suggest you do now is get yourself a piece of wood, and then you can, if you use a piece of wood, you can apply sort of equal pressure if you like. So all you need to do is just push them down like that. Just make sure the the seeds are, you want to put a reasonable amount of pressure down, because what you want to do is make sure there's no air gaps anywhere near the seeds. As soon as you've done that, with some clean tap water, give them a bit of water. You don't need to give them a lot, but you need to obviously soak down through into the seed. So you need to give them around that, about kind of that, which is judging by that, about 1/4 of a litre. I don't know if you can see the bottle, but there's about 1/4 of it gone. And as soon as you've done that, as I say, pop on a piece of glass onto the top like that, and then put them in the greenhouse, and they'll be all right to sort of sort of grow on like that. What you can do is if you get a plant label, and then just put a plant label, I don't know if you can see this, if you put a plant label under the corner like that, you can actually mark on what they are as well. What that will do is it'll generate a small gap between the glass and the tray, and that's just a small gap to keep the heat in, but it's enough gap in there to let the air to flow a little bit, and that will stop any kind of mildew forming on the inside. So if you do get any condensation in the morning on the glass, there's enough airflow to go through, so that's a good tip as well. So all we basically need to do now is, obviously with everything it's always worthwhile, those were the money maker. So what I'm going to do is put money maker on there, and then I can put that in the greenhouse on one side, and they'll be good. Obviously every couple of days just lift up the glass, make sure that they've not dried out. If they have dried out, give them another bit of tap water, clean water. As soon as the plants come through and they start to grow, obviously you can revert there to water but water, you know, just normal rainwater. But whilst they're germinating, always use fresh compost, always use tap water, so there's no sort of germs or anything in there that can cause any problems. Now, for the other seeds, the sort of the Gardener's Delight and the Rainbow Blend, all I'm going to do is exactly the same way, but I'm just going to use a half tray. And basically, you know, you can sow these any time from now. Obviously, I always wait till April to sow the tomatoes. You know, there's no real reason to you know, plant them any earlier than that, really. As I've explained in the past, you don't really gain much from sowing tomatoes too early. In exactly the same way as your brassicas and your beans, you know, you don't want to plant them. Don't be too eager to plant them, because you've got the problem of the frosts, and also the plants. If you plant your tomatoes a month or so earlier, you'll typically find that the ones that you plant normal time, sort of now, will soon catch up with the. So I'm just putting. I've got them a little bit too close, to be fair. I think I'll put 4 in a row. You know, you don't want these types of tomatoes crop quite heavily. You know, you get lots of little tomatoes, and to be honest with you, you can only eat so many small tomatoes. So I always think, you know, with the smaller ones, I only grow, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 plants inside the greenhouse. So that's more than enough there. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got about 20 seeds in there, and that's more than enough. So, you know, these seeds are good until these will be good till 2019. So, you know, there's no reason why I can't just fold that up like that. Yeah, try not to touch the seeds that you're not going to use. Only take out as many as you need. I've got 2 seeds there I just want to separate. Right. And, you know, put them on one side, and there's no reason why you can't use them next year and the year after. I mean, in each of these packets, you know, there's going to be 75 seeds, so that'll do another couple of years at least. So you know, just put them on one side, exactly the same way. You know, all of the tomatoes are basically the same. You know, you don't need to you know, sort of treat any of the different varieties any differently. Just put a little bit of compost on the top like that to make sure it's all nice and even, like that. And then with your piece of wood, just gently press down, but what you want to make sure is the compost is contacting with the seeds all the way around, like that. Again, use tap water in exactly the same way, obviously. You know, because I've got 2 varieties. What I'll do is I'll have this tray like that, and then the other ones will go in this tray, and then I'll just put another piece of glass over those 2 together. So that's how you do the tomatoes, and I'll show you how they get on in a couple of weeks as soon as they've germinated. A quick haul video. I've been to a couple of garden centres and sort of shops over the past few weeks, and I've noticed that string is can range from you know, this is obviously one of your staples for your allotment, but this can range from anywhere between sort of £5 right the way down to £1 or so. Now, I got these from Poundland in Worcester yesterday. Obviously £1 for a piece of reel of string, and it's exactly the same as stuff that I saw the day before in a garden centre for £5. So always shop around, you know, pound shops and supermarkets and stuff like that. It's a really good place to get string from, so always worthwhile shopping around. Another good buy I made yesterday from the pound shop is the double-sided Velcro I tried everywhere to get last year, and there's a few people that put comments on the channel saying, yeah, do try this. This is from the In the Garden with Charlie Dimmock range. This obviously from the pound shop again, but you know they're probably in a number of shops. And this is the double-sided Velcro that basically, you know, you can wrap around on itself, and it'll obviously stick to itself. So you can put that around your your sort of tomato plants and stuff like that. I'm not intending to use it outside, but for £1 you get sort of three reels of that. So I thought that was a really good buy. So get yourself down to your local sort of pound shop or whatever, and you know, look out for that. There's more likely not to be other makes of it, but I was quite pleased to find that this year. Last year I had a look around, and I did see some in the garden centre, but it was you know, silly money, and I wasn't prepared to spend too much money on it. But yeah, but for £1 you got 3 sort of reels of that, which is probably more than enough to do the tomatoes. I did actually buy 3 packs of it, so I've got 9 reels. But yeah, things like string and stuff like that, don't be spending too much money. Go to your pound shop and pick it up from there. Okay, so it's the time of year where we can start to chip potatoes, and as you can see, these are some potatoes that I saved last year. Now that's a little bit big for a seed potato really, but as they've started to chit, you know, I'll be using those. Now you can use a whole manner of things really. I'm using just egg trays here. You know, you can use just normal you know, sort of seed trays and just place them in there, sort of, you know, as they support each other. You could also use you know, some of the small cell seed boxes like that if you really need to. You know, so if you haven't got any egg trays, you know, you can do that. But these are really ideal. Now, all you need to do is, ideally, what you want are seed potatoes like that. Now, if you're going to go out and buy seed potatoes, you know, a lot of the shops sell them all sort of you know, sort of pre-packaged in a bag, and if you go to anywhere where it says you know, you can put them, you know, they've got them all loose in the shop, and basically what you do is you just get the ones that you want and put them, you know, fill your own bag. What you want to be looking for, a seed potato is kind of about that big, and that's roughly just a bit smaller than a golf ball. That's about the size of a golf ball, and that's really all you need. You know, you don't want anything too big. Obviously, if you go for, you know, sort of big potatoes like that, you know, you're not going to get many in your bag if you go for that. But obviously, you know, that's perfectly good as a seed potato anyway. You know, but all you want to do is just check around the seed potato. You know, make sure, you know, you've got no disease or you've got no sort of wormholes or anything like that. You know, and if it looks perfectly healthy, that'll most certainly do. Now, back in the Victorian days, what they used to do was, if you got a potato about that big and you got multiple chits on it, these are the little shoots, what you can actually do is cut that potato in half and plant the 2 halves in separate locations. You know, there's no reason why you can't do that. And also back in the Victorian day as well, what they used to do was actually just put the peelings in. So they used to cut, you know, they used to use the potato itself, and then they used to cut off the you know, the peelings, let the peelings chit, and then put that in. So basically, the size of the potato doesn't massively affect the you know, the actual plant itself. Now, obviously, that's going to form the potato plant. You know, these two here, and obviously the potato itself is a source of food, but you know, you don't necessarily have to have big potatoes to get a good crop. Now, ideally, as I say, you know, you're looking for potatoes that are around the, you know, sort of, you know, something about that big, you know, which is basically like the size of a golf ball or just slightly bigger. That's the ideal size. And what you want to do is put them into your tray face up, so you got your chits like that. Obviously that's going to be the bottom of your potato, and that's going to be toward the top. So put them that way up. And the whole reason for chitting a potato, really, is to stop these little shoots from getting damaged. Because if you have them in a bucket like I've got them here, and you know, and you leave them in there for too long, what you will get is obviously some of the chits are going to get damaged, and obviously that's not going to do your plant very good. So right, it's now the right time to chit sort of late early potatoes, second early should I say, and main crop. If you're in a southern part of Britain, really, you should be thinking most certainly to get your earlies in already. Now these potatoes here are potatoes that I saved myself last year. A lot of controversy here. I've had a few comments in years gone by on the channel to say that you shouldn't really be doing that. Now, I've been saving my own seed potatoes now for a number of years, probably best part of 10 years to be honest with you, and I've never had a problem with doing it. Now, seed potatoes are reasonably expensive for what they are, and I think a lot of these shops sort of overcharge for them really. So these sorts of potatoes I'm not going to eat in the house really. For me it's not a problem to save these sort of smaller potatoes, for putting in the next year. Now, as I say, I've been doing it for a number of years, sort of 10 years or so, and I haven't had any sort of problem with diseases or anything like that. All I do is I just save potatoes that are around that big or smaller, and then I do the exact same thing every year. I put the potatoes in an egg tray like this, plant them, and away they go again. And as I say, I've never had a problem doing that. I've inherited this technique off my father, who also grows lots of potatoes, and he's also been doing it for a number of years, 40-50 years, and he's never had a problem either. So really, you only really need to buy seed potatoes once, and then if you save your seed potatoes afterwards, just place them out on a tray like that. Now, as soon as you've got them on the tray, what you need to do is keep them somewhere sunny or light and dry. So all I'm going to do is put these in the greenhouse. I'm in the second greenhouse at the moment, and all I'm going to do is just place them on the side, and I'm going to leave them there for around probably about 3 or 4 weeks. Now, during that 3 or 4 week period, what's going to happen is these little chits are going to develop a little bit further, and they're going to be, when I put them in the ground, they're probably going to be, judging from these, they're going to be a couple of inches or so high, which is perhaps a little bit, because of the warm weather we've had this year, these have started to chit a lot earlier than they do normally. But you're looking for these little chits to be sort of about 1.5 inches or so big, really. And the timing of putting them in the ground really is all down to frost. What you want is to put them in the ground sort of towards the middle of May really. And then all the either the second or third week in May is typically when I plant out the potatoes, and the aim of that is so the actual plants come out of the ground around the end of May, which is basically when you can guarantee there's not going to be any frost. So that's the best time to be planting your potatoes. But now the best time to is now to start sort of chitting them. Now these are this variety of potatoes called Kestrel. In the past I've grown quite a lot of different varieties of potatoes. I've grown Wiltshire, King Edward, Maris Piper, and they all grow really well in my ground, except for I've had a reasonable amount of slug damage in the past, and to avoid slugs I grow these, which is Kestrel, because I find I get the least amount of slug damage on Kestrel, and I find that the slugs, I do still get a little bit of slug damage. I get the odd one that's been attacked, but compared to the other less slug resistant potato varieties, I get a lot less damage on these, and I find that the so if in your look at the shoot on this one's got a massive shoot. I'll dig this one out. I should have put these in perhaps a little bit earlier, to be honest with you, in for chitting, but some of these have got quite long shoots on. I'm just getting towards the bottom of the bucket now. Let's see if I can get this one out so I can show you. No, that one, look, that's got quite a big chit on it. I could basically put that in the ground now, I think. That's bordering on too big, to be honest with you, but still, it just goes to show the actual potato isn't part of the actual plant. There's the plant there, you know, so I could basically remove that potato from that now, and that would grow on quite happily. So yeah, as I say, get them in a tray like this now, and you know, get them all ready. Now, as I say, these are a second early potato, but I grow them like a main crop. So basically what I do is I plant these second or third week in May, and then I'll be cropping these in sort of August, September time. Some of them I will leave in a bit longer, and you know, let them you know, sort of stay in the ground. So I'll typically what I do is I always find that potatoes will stay fresher if you leave them in the ground. So what I tend to do is leave them in as long as I can, obviously, but the longer I leave them in, the more chance there is of them getting damaged by slugs. So it's a balancing act really. What you want to do is leave them in the ground for as long as you can, without the chance of them being sort of damaged by slugs and that. Obviously, if you think you've had a reasonable amount of rain and you're going to get a reasonable amount of slugs out and about, then you know, you're probably better off digging them up. However, if you dig them up, you know, before you use them and bag them up, what you can get is them going kind of soft in the sacks if you're not careful. You know, sort of towards the end of the year or the start of next year. So to keep them as fresh as you possibly can do, what I would suggest is leave them in the ground as long as you can. Or the other option you've got is, rather than bagging them up, dig them up and then rebury them. That's another Victorian trick to keep potatoes fresh. What they used to do was dig them up and then put them in a potato trench, where basically you sort of get the potatoes, dig them all up, and then bury them again in a pile, and then put the earth over the top, and then that will keep them fresher. But if you are sacking them up, obviously keep them cool as cool as you can without them freezing, and you know, keep them in the dark, and then they should stay as fresh as or as you know, for as long as possible. But that's what you should be doing now. What I'm going to do is carry on doing the rest of these potatoes and pulling them out. This year I'm going to be growing 13 or so rows of potatoes. Now I put 14 potatoes in each row, so obviously I need 13 times 14 potatoes, so I need a reasonable amount of these. So this is my first bucket. I've got another bucket to go, so I'll get all of these out, and then I'll show you how they look in a few weeks' time when I put them in the ground. So I hope this episode has been of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you've got below, and I'll always get back to you, and I'll see you on the next episode. Jim's Love, go on.